So before you freak out and call me crazy, the frame here is not clamped, it's just hung and secured with almost no force, just enough to hold it stable. This is the frame we have here. I'm not sure where it comes from, and honestly I didn't really want to ask. It's a replica or such like of a Cippolini, the one frame. Now my first problem with this, that if you decide to copy a frame, then at least copy a good one, because these bikes are not really known about their engineering prowess. They're just well, basically fashion items, the way I see it. From far it doesn't look too tragic, to be honest, but if you go into the details, and particularly if you have seen a couple of high-end frames already, like I have, then it becomes obvious what's what. So first, let me start with this sticker thing, which is a sort of sticker that you would put on a fridge, and it's just pure hideousness. Then the paint job, well, it's playing out to be a raw carbon finish, but not really, because it's obvious that the layer on top, the bottom layer of the frame, is just a cosmetic one, presumably to hide some quality issues that could arise or not arise, I don't know. Here you can, for example, see a pretty bad instance of, well, the frame being brushed or the material being brushed away. The head tube area, if you look into it, doesn't look too bad in terms of manufacturing, but there are some wrinkles visible there clearly. Then if you go further, again the logo applied is just it doesn't resemble any idea of quality. Same goes for the included screws or the fake UCI tag right here. And then also from, for example, the brace on for the front mech, you can see that it's the lowest, cheapest grade of material there is for that aluminum part or the screws. It's a threaded bottom bracket also, which is fine. If you look inside, you also see remnants of glue and different other stuff here. If I touch it, it's all very rough, not like in a high-end frame. Also, if you look inside, well, generally you get the idea. With a normal bike you get what you pay for, and it's exactly what you're not getting here. Same goes for this. And also the frame shapes and all the tube profiles in general are all copied after the, well, I think the grossly underdeveloped and flashy original Cippolini frames. So if you look at the seat stays, the chain stays, no real idea of function there. So yeah, for me it's an eyesore. Some people like it. It's not my business to discuss stays here. Also the brake mount looks pretty fragile, which is exactly the opposite of what you want. The frame itself appears to be pretty robust, but I have no jig to test its stiffness or safety, which for me is the biggest concern of a bike like this, because yeah, you will say that a normal carbon frame will break too in event of an impact or crash. That's true, because it's not optimized for that. But a bike from a proper manufacturer designs in a bike that it's safe to ride in all riding circumstances, and it can withstand all the forces that occur. Here you get none of that guaranteed. Let's look at the other components as well. This is the fork we have, again with another fake UCI label, and full carbon dropouts, pretty thick ones, so at least that gives a slight hope in terms of safety. Again, the logo is just miserable. If you look at the steerer, looks okay, but if you look at it on the inside, yeah, there we have the autofocus going on. You can see a bit of irregularity when it comes to wall thickness, which again isn't ideal. Then the same thing happens with the proprietary seat post. Loose fiber there also not good. And again, wall thickness, here it's even more visible, coming at super random, so far cry from the compliance tuned aero seat posts of high-end bikes. Then we have the obviously super low quality hardware in there, which I'm sure will not be the most pleasant thing to work on. Some other accessories. We have the headset bearings, which look remarkably normal. Same goes for the expander plug. And yeah, there we have some bearing race. This is presumably the top cap, and some spacers. Then we have the internal seat post binder, which I'm not really sure it's going to work, because again, if you just touch it, you feel how cheaply it is done, and also it doesn't even match the shape of the actual seat post very well, so we'll see. Also, the area is super tiny, and it has these grooves in it which serve a purpose that's unknown to me. But yeah, there is a slight chance it will work. At least it slides. The angles of the machining are designed so they work. So yeah, it's a start. And then we have something that I agree with even less, and those are unknown carbon wheels. Now, these are in fact the worst kind of these, because they're clinchers and therefore rim brakes. So that could potentially be a disastrous combination, because even carbon clinchers of renowned manufacturers tend to fail sometimes. So I think you can see my point there. The braking performance will be most probably horrific. As for the safety concerns, here I think there can be even more pronounced than with the frame. It also comes with tubeless tape, this pair, so I really wouldn't risk that even in my worst days, because yeah, at least with the clincher you have a tube to keep things in check. With tubeless and rim brakes and cheap carbon, it's a really disastrous combination. So if you are contemplating on something like this, at least have them in the disc brake version, and preferably tubular, because there are far fewer things to go wrong there. As for the weight, that's probably the only performance aspect we can talk here, because aerodynamically I don't think these have seen any source of testing. I've already weighed the frame. That's 1200 grams as is. Considering it's a size extra small, that's pretty tragic. Also, I think the stiffness numbers wouldn't be that high. As for the wheels, I'll make the adjustments and I'll post the results at the end of this video. Now, let's not waste any more time and start building this up. The group set actually is pretty nice. It's Ultegra R8020 Di2, so it's not a cheap one. Also for the tires, GP5000s, these are the ones that I've been provided with to build this bike. But honestly, this really should be the place to save on rather than safety critical components as the frame or the wheels. So that's my opinion. You take from it what you want, but we'll see how it turns out in the end. For this bike, I really wanted to do a post-build video, but unfortunately for the tight schedule on it, I wasn't able to because the owner came up already. So I just marked up a couple of things that were bothering me with the build and where quality was definitely lacking. So as I predicted, after the owner has ridden it, the seat post was slipping dramatically. I applied more and more torque and grip paste, but it's never really perfect, so that was kind of expected. Then, because of the Di2 nature of the build, I had to drill one of the cable stops to just allow for the larger diameter of the Di2 connector, which they could have thought of. Then I also needed to route Di2 cable for a rear mech through the drive side chainstay, which was just not possible. There was some kind of debris or manufacturing residue in there, and I just wasn't able to do that. I spent 1 hour on it with different tools, different methods, but it just didn't go through. So I ended up routing the cable externally. For this, I had to modify the protective cap under the bottom bracket to allow for the cable to basically re-enter the frame there. So that took me a lot of time. Other than that, the build was quite simple compared to the bikes that I usually do. Then another shocking thing that I realized is that there's no C-tube water bottle mount, which is straight up stupid on a road bike, because even most time trial and cross bikes have them, which don't really need them. So to not have it on a road bike, on a regular road race bike, is just ridiculous. One thing I was surprised by is that the threads at the bottom bracket were actually fine and smooth, because I expected another problem here. Luckily it didn't materialize. Then I already mentioned the weight. The complete bike with these wheels turned out to be just under 8 kilos. So for a bike with zero aerodynamic properties basically, and really no wide tires, no disc brakes, no deep section wheels, and for this small size without even a second water bottle mount, it's just not very good at all. But I think part of that stems from the design of the original Cippolini, because in my eye, from an engineering perspective, there are really no functional shapes in that frame. It's all just design and to look flash and bold. Really, there's if you look at the bike that's been actually designed and optimized by using normal engineering methods like a Specialized or a BMC or a Trek, you don't see this kind of shaping. And I think this is also where the excess weight comes in, because these shapes that just don't make sense, if you look at the seat stays, it's just ridiculous. It also can't perform well functionally in terms of ride quality and comfort. So enough about the rant about this frame. One thing that also shocked me is that the owner paid a full €1,000 for this really rubbish frame that's a cheap knockoff and has several design and manufacturing flaws in it. So really, if your budget is smaller, don't try to look flash with a bike like this. Buy a cheaper, reliable bike. One of my favorite picks for this kind of price point is the Trek M on the ALR Cannondale CAD 13 now is a very modern bike, or the Specialized LA or LA Sprint. These are all excellent aluminum bikes, much lower price point, and they can beat the hell out of a frame like this based on performance. So really, if you must have a good bike, then it should be something like that. I didn't really talk to the owner about this because, well, I think he doesn't really know. And I don't know, the whole situation was kind of weird about it. So, you know, it would just stir something that I didn't want to stir. But really, I seriously advised against something like this. And the main reason I've done this build is really just to see how it is and really how does it work with a frame like this. Now I have an experience, so hopefully others will be more clever and will heed this advice, and I will not encounter a frame like this in the near future. Okay, so if you want to see some proper bikes that I work on and use myself, then don't forget to tune into the channel later on and subscribe. It's all for today. Thanks for watching and see you next time.